In today's Live Read video, I want to talk to you about stories. And this is actually going to be a 3-part series. And the first video, which is coming to you today, is going to be about what stories are and how we can start to identify those. And when I say stories, what I'm talking about is a capital S story. And a story is something that you can think of as like an internal belief or an internal narrative that you either tell yourself or that you may even be following without even being aware of it. So it's this underlying belief that we have that is really affecting our life. And we may be aware of the story and we may not be aware of the story, but it's something that's like ingrained in us. So I'll get into kind of some examples, but the reason I want to look at stories and talk with you about them is because that is really something that can be a limiting belief. It can be a barrier that we don't even realize is there. On our journey towards living read. So if we want to have a more vibrant and joyful life, one thing that we really want to do and take the time to do is identify some possible limiting stories that we have. So thinking of the beliefs that we have, the internal narratives, these statements, so these stories often start with things like, I should, or I can't, I never, or I always. So that's usually what a story starts with. So it could be something like, I'm not creative. I mean, that's not necessarily something you might identify as something as a limiting belief or a limiting story, but it's something that you may be using to determine what you do and don't do within your life. It could have, another story could be, I should be making 60 grand a year. So that's something that you internally, have that narrative around or that belief around, and it's causing you to make certain decisions and choices in your life. Another story could be, I have to put my family's needs always before mine. Again, you might think to yourself, like, why is that a limiting belief? That's, something often women do. They put their family's needs before theirs. But it could just be something that's limiting your ability to have a vibrant and joyful life if that's an internal belief and internal narrative that you're using to make your decisions with. And let me just go a little bit deeper into that. So if I have the belief that I need to always put my family's needs before mine, that could be limiting my ability to have a vibrant and joyful life because my needs are always coming last. So I may never actually get to my needs if I have the belief that I always have to put them first. So I'm always going to be fulfilling their needs and helping them with their needs, and I may never get to mine. So that's why I'm saying it's a limiting belief. So it's not that it's bad. It's not that I'm saying don't put your family's needs before yours. I'm just saying that we need to examine that story and we need to identify if that's something that you have, because we need to work with that in order to be able to get your needs in there as well. So the other example I gave you around, I should be making 60 grand a year. Again, why is that a limiting story? Why is that a limiting belief? It's not bad to make 60 grand a year, but I'm asking you to question it for yourself. Because if that's a belief that you have, and you're telling yourself that I should be making this, that could be running you towards certain decisions in your life. And so say you like your job. You think it's great. You go in, you do your job, and you're happy where you are. But you have this belief, I should be making this much. And say you're not at that job, but you like your job. You might really be wanting to focus on some, hobbies or things outside of your job But instead, because you have that belief, you're looking for that next promotion. You're spending, extra hours on the job when really you're happy in your job, and what you want to do is focus on things outside of work. But because you have that belief or that internal narrative you're telling yourself, you're not seeing that you actually do have a job that you're happy at. You, are really craving something else. But because you have that belief, you're not seeing what you really need. If you're telling yourself, I'm not creative, that could be something you're saying, is that really a story? Is that true? Some people are more creative than others. But it could be that, you're saying to yourself, I'm not creative. But really you have this deep desire to try painting. But you're not doing it because you have this internal narrative of, I'm not creative, so why bother? So instead of pursuing something you feel like you really want to, that could light you up. Nobody says you have to be great at painting. It just may be something you enjoy. Instead of pursuing that, you have this internal narrative that's kind of causing you to not even try. So that's what I'm talking about today with these capital S stories. And again, it's not that they're bad things. It's just they may be what's creating a barrier for you to be able to live red, to be able to live that passionate, engaged, connected, vibrant, joyful life that you're looking for. So it's really important that we try to identify these limiting stories so that we can examine them, kind of see why they're there, and then maybe work to reframe them. So that's what we're going to do in the next couple of videos, is look to see maybe why those stories are there, how they got there, what you're getting from them, and then look to see how we can reframe those so that we can remove them from being a barrier and open up some possibilities for us to connect with that joyful place that we're trying to in our lives. So what I want to invite you to do today after watching this video is get a pen and paper, write down phrases that stories usually start with. So the I can't, I should, I never, I always, I have to. Those are big key phrases. They're not all encompassing, but those are the main ones that I want you to write down. And I want you to think of all of the things that you maybe find yourself saying or thinking, or just even things that you've heard maybe family members say, people that you care about, your friends, coworkers, that you feel like you do believe that you're kind of making decisions and running your life based on. So just take some time. You might have more in one than the other. So maybe you have a lot of I shoulds, or maybe you have a lot of I'm nots. So that's one. I don't think I mentioned that one. So I'm not is also one. And see what comes out. And really just start to be honest with yourself, identifying those stories. And you don't have to do anything with them right now. So really what the goal of for you right now is to just write them down, just to identify them. And then what we're going to do next week with my next video for you guys is that we're going to look to see why we have those stories. What have they given us? Because they're there for a reason, right? And so we want to examine that. And then the third part of the process in the third video, we'll practice seeing what we can do to reframe those stories. So grab your pen, grab your paper, and do it now. Write those statements down. So I never, I always, I have to, I should, I'm not, I can't. Those are the phrases you want to examine in your life. All right, guys, I will see you for part 2 of our stories videos. So I will see you guys next week.